welcome to Trashcan Podcast. I'm your host, JJ, with the Sergej.
Hello.
Hello to you as well.
Quite surprised to be here.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's actually kind of a surprise that Sergej is here. Not that anyone would know that.
Surprising to us, not to you.
Yes. So, the long and short of that whole thing is, there's going to be some guests coming up in the near future. And I was hoping to have one of those on this week, but literally no one could make it. Which is in part, of course, my fault for being like, hey, can you do it this week in the next 2 or 3 days? Where maybe I should have asked a couple of days earlier, but that is besides the point. Today we are going to be talking about computer life hacks and shortcuts, which is a bit of a strange topic, but I think this one is actually genuinely useful, as opposed to some of the other ones.
It sounds boring, though, as opposed to the other ones we've done.
I mean, I agree fundamentally.
I feel like the other ones sound more interesting.
Yeah, but honestly, every time... So the way this topic came up, right, is when we sometimes we'll just mention something to each other, like, oh yeah, this shortcut, I like to use it a lot and stuff, and then the other person's like, I didn't even know that was possible. And so I personally always found it very interesting when Sergej was like, oh yeah, I always do it that way. And I'm like, you do it what way? And so I do think there's generally some takeaways here, and I know for most people it's probably not going to be exciting as it is for me, but today we can all learn something.
Yeah.
How about we start with the one that I always forget how that works? Sergej, how do I open Task Manager?
Control Shift Escape. Can do it with one hand and 2 fingers.
Hand confirm that works. Cool.
Instead of doing the old Control Shift Escape and then going to Task Manager, you can do it
Control
directly.
Delete, I believe.
Wait, what did I say?
I think you said Control Alt Escape or something. I think you said Escape instead of Delete.
Oh, yeah, no, I meant that. What you said.
Yeah. So the way I tend to open it usually is just by right-clicking on the taskbar in Windows 10, and there's a Task Manager option there as well, which is also relatively quick. It's not as smooth as just hitting 3 buttons, but it's also much more memorable.
I do have it pinned on my taskbar, which I usually access it from, but if I don't have the taskbar visible, if I'm in a game or something full screen, I want to access it.
I mean,
Control Shift Escape.
I personally prefer to always have my taskbar, but that is besides the point.
I mean, I do too. I do not have it collapsing or whatever you call it. But if I'm in a game, for example, that is full screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. What should we do next? Browser navigation? Tabs?
I mean, I guess there's definitely some useful.
You had a couple interesting ones there.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one is there's a couple of ways to switch between tabs. There's 2 primary ways. There is Control Tab brings you to the next tab, and Control Shift Tab brings you to the previous tab.
Control Shift Tab.
Right and left.
Yep.
That's
the way I've done it always.
Yeah, that is how I...
Last time we talked, you told me of a really cool different one.
Yep. I'm just gonna actually quickly double check if that button is labeled the way I think it is labeled. That is a German keyboard. What? Why am I? Okay, so I think they're called picture up and picture down. I'm not so sure, which is what I was gonna check. The problem is
actually, now that you mention that, I'm not sure either.
Yep. The worst part is I have to look at pictures of actual keyboards because they're not default keys on the keyboard layout, I think. Page up, page down, that's what it is.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, no, I recognize that.
To picture up and picture down. Anyways, page up, page down buttons. If you press Control and page up, it's like pressing actually Control Shift Tab, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then down is the same as pressing Control Tab. So that works. Both of those also
super useful.
work in Excel, I think, and they definitely work in LibreOffice Calc. To switch between different, because you can have multiple you can have multiple tables in one like ODS file.
Yeah.
Or whatever the Microsoft equivalent of that is.
XLXS, I think, is the Microsoft one.
Jesus Christ. Actually, I really like the naming center for the open document ones. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, ODS, open document spreadsheet. ODT, open document text.
Yeah.
That's just very straightforward.
Yeah. Can also do that one with the one hand too, using right control. I just kind of thought of that.
Oh yeah.
Didn't think of using right control.
That is true. I mean, I think that's the main reason why I tend to use the tab one, because you can do it one-handed with left control. Because tab is also right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then shift, as you previously pointed out, you can just press with your thumb. You can press both control and shift. Well, thumb if I'm sitting here, you probably do with your pinky, I guess, if you were actually like typing on the keyboard.
Yep.
I tend to do a lot with my thumbs when I'm like not actually typing. For example, right now when I'm just looking at the camera and I'm just sitting here and not actually engaging with my keyboard. I mean, part of it is that my keyboard is also to my left and it's not like right in front of me. So it's easier to find the edge by just using my thumbs, and that's how I usually navigate, for example, during the podcast, how I navigate between tabs, by just putting my hand like basically to the left of my keyboard and then just getting to the buttons from there.
I find it weird pressing control with the thumb, or shift for that matter. I know some people do that, but it just seems so weird, so unnecessary.
I probably wouldn't do it while actually typing, but I would. But I again, because I think it's just more intuitive for me to just, when I grab the keyboard, I put my hand down to the left of it, and then it's the shortest way. But I think we're getting beyond useful tips. I guess
that makes sense, yeah.
Personal preference of how we use our keyboards. Speaking of keyboards, wait, we're still done with tabs. One last tip with tabs is that you can actually press Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So as in controlling one of those numbers to get to that manyth tab in your browser window. So obviously that only works up to 9 tabs. As a matter of fact, I haven't tested if Control 0 works for 10 tabs. And I'm not gonna. But Sergej is.
At least not in Firefox.
But yeah, so you can very easily navigate to the first couple of tabs.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
So that is somewhat useful if you have either just a lot of windows with fewer than 10 tabs to begin with. I say a lot of windows because I was just assuming that you have more than 10 tabs open at any given point in time. Or you have like some of the tabs that you access the most all the way on the left, in which case you can then also just jump to one directly rather than having to go with Control Tab, Control Shift Tab over multiple tabs. I was going to say that way I can, for example, just access...
Another use case is if you have multiple tab groups that basically are windows, but like in one window, can also use that. Yeah,
so for context, of course, when we talk about browsers, Sergej generally uses Firefox. I use a Chrome-based browser, a Chromium-based browser, I guess I should say, which is, in my case, Brave. I used to use Chrome, but yeah, Brave is the same thing with some additional privacy benefits. Supposedly.
Man, don't understate that. Brave is like, as far as I know, the most privacy-based browser out of the box.
Now. I think one problem that people have with it is that it's
you can get
very easy
Firefox.
Because
really?
Because it is still distinct enough from Chrome that you can very easily distinguish them, and not a lot of people are using Brave. I think the main fingerprinting problem is that because Brave is still relatively obscure, like, you don't need a lot of additional information than just figuring out that someone is using Brave to figure out who they are. Whereas if you're using the newest version of Chrome, then you're like 1 of 10 million or something, probably more. And it's going to be a lot harder to track you in that sense. But also, a lot of the features like blocking, cross-site tracking through cookies is then, once again, an advantage of Brave. And so you can get a lot of the benefits of Brave by just getting browser extensions on Chrome. But A, it's going to get very bloated very quickly, so it's just more lightweight to have it built in into Brave. And B, some of the Chrome features are directly communicating with the Google servers, and you can't really fix with extensions because it's like built into the browser itself. And Brave also rips a lot of that out. So that's actually another like computer life hack, if you will. You can always just, if you're using Chrome, you can just switch to Brave. It's basically the same thing, but if you're privacy concerned, that is directly an improvement.
I guess that is a computer life hack.
I mean, in a way. It's kind of the same thing as you don't want to pay for Office, just use LibreOffice, right? Or OpenOffice, but I prefer LibreOffice.
True.
But like at that point,
same.
A little bit specific. I haven't mentioned that I have a computer fun fact that does kind of relate to the Office programs. In Excel, I don't think you actually have a practical use for that, but in Excel, you can type in as a date the 29th of February, 1900.
Okay.
Under the Gregorian calendar, 1900 is not a leap year. However, when Microsoft initially made Excel, they pulled their data of like what dates exist basically, and like what times the dates exist, from like some other database that had an error in it where they had 1900 as a leap year, and so that became an error in Excel. And just in case updating it would break something, so just for backwards compatibility, they basically kept it as a valid date in Excel. So, I don't know when that would come in handy, but that is a piece of information that maybe you should know if you're like dealing with like very old dates and stuff.
Man, backwards compatibility.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah.
Backwards compatibility is like both my favorite and least favorite concept in like all of computer science, basically. And I mean, I know it's not unique to computer science, but it's really cool because of what it is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to let you use a lot of software from way back when on a very current machine, for example. But at the same time, while it is allowing a lot of systems to interact that wouldn't otherwise be able to do so, it is also holding a lot of development back because you have to develop it in such a way that it is backwards compatible.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get into the bastardization of the IPv4 standard. There's some fields in there.
No, let's skip that.
They're straight up not being used for their original purpose because IP groups used to be static, so subnet lengths used to be determined by which IP address you have, basically. So, and then they change it so that there's a now I'm explaining it. That there's a subnet prefix length, but they didn't have a field for it, so they bastardized another field for it because, of course, they did.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to shortcuts and computer life hacks, whatever.
Yes.
I can't come up with anything right now in terms of shortcuts, but if you're a student somewhere, you probably have a monitoring software in your school, computer class. JJ knows where this is going because I've told him about it.
Yeah.
If you've ever had your internet cut out from you through that software by the teacher, there is a non-zero chance that if you open the help page for that software, which is opened through a Internet Explorer window, you will have access to internet through this window. I know it's Internet Explorer, not all sites will work, but if you just need to quickly look up some information on Google or whatever, that is easily enough to do that.
Yeah. I know that story already, yeah, that's an interesting one. One thing that I find personally very useful, but I'm not sure how useful it is to other people, is the ability to have multiple keyboards on Windows. And by the way, I'm coming at this mostly from a Windows angle. I'm not that used to Linux. I know that Linux has its own benefits, but also so many different distros that there's probably nothing that's universally applicable anyways.
Yeah.
So you can have multiple keyboards, and then you might be familiar with the idea that in the bottom right corner, like right next to your time, there's like a setting where you can switch keyboards. But, alas, we have another shortcut. You can use there was a couple of things you could do. What was it? You can do Windows spacebar to go to the next keyboard.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that one.
And I believe it was Alt
Always use a
Shift.
different one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Alt-
that is the one I use.
Alt left shift also gets you to the next one, and Alt right shift gets you to the previous one. So it goes the other way around. It actually distinguishes between the two different shift keys, which is very useful if you have more than two keyboards configured. Because otherwise the directionality doesn't matter, it's just associated between them. Also, worth noting, for any given language that you have set up, you can configure any keyboard that supports the same alphabet. Which is to say, you could, for example, like I have it configured the English language with the German keyboard, because I'm used to a German keyboard, and I didn't need to have both German and English in my language list, but I did need to have English in there to make stuff work. And so that is what I use, but also you can use that, for example, to completely replace your existing QWERTY keyboard with, for example, Dvorak, if you prefer that, or something like that. The one thing is you can't have a language without a keyboard, so if you want to if you want to replace your keyboard, you might have to add a new keyboard and then delete the old one from the list, but because Windows is a little bit... Sometimes you just have to know how to work it. But, so I'm currently down to have
lots
only
of workarounds.
So there's that. And...
have I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 keyboards.
Oh yeah, you have some in there that you don't even know why they're in there, right?
Yeah, 4 of them are just broken and I don't know where they would come from.
I mean, so you have 5 keyboards that you have intentionally configured? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have 3, and I was already going to say that I don't really need Greek. I just really want to have an easy way to type Greek letters for the occasional time I need to type alpha somewhere, which is it's mostly that. Alpha, maybe a delta or something. But that's about the extent of it. And then...
if you want to be fancy, a kappa. That's also funny sometimes.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
So... I mean, just basically for math context, which I don't write a lot of mathematical equations on my computer, but I know that there were times when I needed it, and now it's convenient to have it, even if I have probably not used it since. Also, additional bonus, you can, if you want to really mess with someone, you can use, for example, a capital Alpha instead of an A, because they look identical. And then if someone tries to, for example, throw it in the translator, it's not going to work. Or tries to type it into a search engine or something, just prevents people from copy-pasting your text effectively. And I have a Russian keyboard configured because I'm learning Russian. And that's really about the extent of that logic. And then the German keyboard because I need to be able to type the Latin alphabet. I actually have some additional shortcuts configured via additional software so that I can type some of the letters that are not on the German keyboard, but that I would need to type French, for example, but that is also a little bit besides the point.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Okay, one other.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shortcut for browsers. Don't know if it works in Chromium-based browsers, but for Firefox it does. If you use the inspector tool quite often.
Yes.
And don't want to search around in there manually to try to find a specific element, you can press Control, Shift, and C to basically hover over the element you want, and it will highlight it in the Inspector tab.
Control,
we can then
Shift,
change
C.
stuff around however you want. Yep.
Yeah, that appears to work.
Oh, that's good. Learned that this week and have surprisingly used that quite often already.
F12 also to just leave the inspector because it's just a console window.
Yeah, or open it.
Yeah, but if you if it opens, it just opens console. Oh no, it does open elements because that was less more used, but it doesn't necessarily. And I generally tend to use right-click inspect because then it immediately open to the element where I'm at.
Yeah.
But
Doesn't always work though. Some sites prevent right-clicking, so
right, yeah.
it's really useful in
I
that
think
case.
there's also
In these cases,
another way to open console, right? Is it Control L? No, something like that. Like Control L puts you to the. That's actually useful. Control L lets you type into the top bar right away.
Oh yeah, I use F6 for that.
Also useful.
Yeah.
Control Shift L or something. I thought it was something with L that I had in mind, but maybe I'm just wrong. Let's see.
Maybe Control Shift E.
No, doesn't really matter all that much. I mean, having one shortcut to do it is enough, anyways. F6 was actually useful.
Yeah.
But to be fair, what I usually do is I just I have a key that takes me to is like a home key, and so that will like set it to a new tab page, and then automatically it'll also be up in the box for typing. And since if I'm already gonna type in the box anyways, I'm usually just gonna type in a new URL, so it ends up being just as efficient. Even if it is typing an extra sideload, but it's just a blank page for me, the new tab page, so that doesn't really matter. I was just about to say something else. There was one other category of tips that I thought were very useful. Oh yeah, I guess people know the basic browser ones, like Control T for a new tab, Control N for a new window. Control N for a new is generally pretty universal. I'm also not going to explain, Control C, V, X, that whole thing. Control A for highlighting everything, but that's probably all some people know. I had something else in mind though, like one extra category.
Perhaps Control Shift T to open back a closed window.
Open previously closed tab.
Closed tab.
Does also work for if you close the entire window and the browser is still open, it'll open the entire window back up at once. Not what I had in mind. I'm not even sure if it was a browser one that I had in mind. Oh yeah, right. It's all a browser one. Windows 10 and I think 11 as well allows you to have multiple desktops. Which in and of itself is useful. Yeah. You want to press Control Windows Tab, I think. Was it? No, it's just a tab that I'm hitting. That's why. So Alt Tab, you can go between windows, and then Windows Tab. Oh no, that's what it was. I just pressed too many buttons. Windows Tab opens a task view. You're not frozen, are you? No.
Oh yeah.
Opens the view where you can see all of your desktops and all the windows. And then you can use, which I'm not going to actually do, despite the fact that you can use Control. What is it? Control Shift Tab? Is it? No, wait. What is it? Control Alt Tab. Wait, now I'm doing it intuitively usually without even thinking about it. What is it? Control Windows Control. Yeah, right. Windows Control and then the right and left arrow keys brings you to previous and next desktops.
Yeah.
And you can also use. What was it? You can use Control Windows Shift and arrow keys to move windows between different displays, as in different screens, which is very useful. Windows Shift right arrow goes to second screen. Goes.
Yeah.
And you can use just Windows and left and right to have it take up half the screen, and then top to maximize and bottom to minimize. Though if it's maximized, you have to hit down twice to minimize it, because it's going to demaximize and then minimize.
Pretty useful stuff.
Those were the ones I was going to mention, because those are actually very useful, especially the... I find maximize very useful because... you can always also double-click the actual header bar. That'll also work. Or actually hitting the maximize button, which who does that? Minimizing...
Didn't actually know about just Windows and arrow keys ones. That's pretty useful.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, if it's...
Yeah, no. I figured there was something like that. I use similar shortcuts on Linux all the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the specific ones on Windows.
The fun thing is, if I have a browser window open on my main screen right now and I hit Windows left, it's going to be on the left side of the screen. If I hit Windows left again, actually this one just unpinned it. Then if I hit it again, it's on the right side of my second screen. Hit it again, it's now maximized on my second screen. Hit it again, it's left side of my second screen. And then hit it again, it's on the right side of my main screen. So, and then, sometimes you can actually hit up and down as well to also put it in the quadrant view, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it just maximizes instead.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, anyways. Just Windows and arrow keys to move your windows around a little bit. And again, if you just want to move it to a different screen, you want to hit Windows Shift and then the arrow keys to move it immediately over to the other screen.
Yeah,
I like how
that's one I use all the time.
Showing them, so that's not very useful. But also, the ones with multiple screens will be very difficult to actually showcase without having a camera on your screens.
Yeah,
I guess you could probably set it up so you screen record multiple screens.
Screen recordings, yeah.
Then you have to have them be half size or quarter size so that they both fit on there. It's a whole thing.
It's weird. We didn't really bother with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably a video that could have used graphics, but yeah, no. We're recording this way too close to the release for me to do anything fancy with this.
Yes. One other one that probably is well known, but just in case it isn't, just using Alt and Tab. You can cycle between opened windows.
Yeah, I mentioned that. You can also, if you keep holding Alt, it stays open. And you can technically use the mouse to then select a specific window as well.
Yep. Or you can also use Shift Tab while you're holding Alt to go backwards. Yep.
I think you can actually also use the arrow keys. Yeah, you can also use the arrow keys. Once you're holding Alt, you can just use the arrow keys as well.
Oh, true.
I personally find that a little bit more
also
convenient,
Generally, if you haven't noticed, Shift is usually the key to reverse whatever you're doing normally.
That is at least for things that don't involve the arrow keys, because then usually... Also, yeah, generally, if you want to do a slightly different version of something, pressing Shift or Control is usually a good start. And a general rule of thumb, oftentimes, that I've found is that a lot of stuff that works for programs with Alt will work sometimes in browsers with Control. So, Alt F4 closes a window. I think we all know that.
Yep.
Control F4 closes a tab.
I didn't know that, actually.
I've told you that before, and then you told me that you use it now.
Probably, but it isn't. Control W.
Yeah.
Is the one I use.
We talked. I know we talked about that one before. It's one of the ones that inspired this topic. Although I think because we had a couple of weeks back to back where we just after the podcast, something we just kind of casually, offhandedly mention a keyboard shortcut, and the other person would be like, "What?" I either do it a different way or I didn't know that at all. And so this is why this topic exists. Control F4 for closing tabs, very useful. I wonder if
W, easier. Don't have to stretch your hands that much.
I mean, it is true, but I feel like there's also a very easy way. Oh yeah, no, it depends on how you do it, right? Because if you could press Control with your thumb, it's very easy. He's trying it, folks!
Oh, wait, with your right hand, you mean?
No, it's my left hand. But
wait, no, that's your left hand.
Control with the thumb and then rotate your hand so that your middle finger presses F4. That's how I would sometimes do it.
I mean, okay, fair. But your keyboard setup is not exactly standard.
Oh, right. For you, you'd have to hold it like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
yep.
Again, I have my keyboard sitting to the left of me. If I were to type longer text, I'm sitting on a couch, right? I can just rotate myself a little bit. And I do usually sit a little bit differently on videos than I would if I was actually typing. I would sit a lot more left-leaning a little bit, so it's not as left to me. It's a little more in front of me. But so I have a lot of weird ways I use my keyboard, especially while recording, but also just in general, if I'm sitting here for some reason, watching a movie or something, and I just offhandedly want to do something, I have very different ways of doing that than I would if I was sitting in front of it typing. So there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always right control, but then whether it's W or F4 is both two-handed, though the default hand position will make that a lot more accessible. Not with one hand, though you could actually do it with one hand.
You can use right control and F4 with one hand, not control W.
Yep. There you go.
To be fair, I'm using a fairly large keyboard.
I'm using what I would consider a standard size keyboard, but then again, whatever that means.
I don't know.
I mean, you know my keyboard. You would say it's pretty standard, right?
I guess.
I feel like if you just
I actually don't know how my keyboard compares to that.
If you just walk into any office building and you go up to someone's desk, my keyboard is probably the exact size that someone's keyboard there would be.
And probably the same model, yeah.
I was about to say, the chance will be the exact same one, as a matter of fact. I mean, mine has some, like, I was going to say media buttons, but it's not even that. It's like the, calculator. There's one for mail, which just opens a new browser window. There's the home one, and there's the sleep one, which I've deactivated because, we want to accidentally press it during recording, and,
we, he means me.
Oh, yeah, right. Sergej wants to press it during recording, and, I disabled it since. But I think that's enough for this topic, which brings us to our facts of the week.
That was
Sergej.
Also the reason to change the recording format to MKV,
which we've also done since.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Pro tip for like the very few people of you that are doing that. Lossless formats are formats in which, well, not lossless, that would just be quality-wise, but like there are formats that you can that if the recording stops in the middle of it, it'll just have the frames until then. And some formats like MP4, which is more compressed, where you need to have the entire file for it to work. If you cut it off in the middle, it's just not going to work.
Yep.
So yeah, MKV, very useful. It can also have multiple audio tracks, which is something that we very heavily rely on for our recordings. Because that allows us to mix our audio in post. Which is like the main thing that I do when editing these videos. Because the podcast is basically unedited. I just throw in the intro cards with like our names on them and the end card, and I remix the audio a little bit. By which I mean, I just have it run through a default filter, which the main purpose of which is to have it a little bit compressed and a little bit louder, so that we're the same volume, roughly, and also, even if I talk a little bit more quietly, and then I talk a bit more loudly, it's not that much of a difference. I mean, I didn't overdo it to begin with, because I don't compress it that heavily, but yeah. What is the fact of the week?
My fact of the week involves Burger King and Facebook. Back in 2009, Burger King ran a Whopper sacrifice campaign.
Ah, yes.
Where you had to remove 10 friends you had on Facebook in order to get a free Whopper. So, I did a little bit of investigating. That sounded somewhat far-fetched to me personally. I don't know if it did to you. I don't remember it personally.
I mean, I've heard it, but the thing I immediately thought was like, why would I not just friend 10 random people, go to Burger King, and then unfriend them again? So like, I don't know how they like prevented exploitation of that system, or if they even cared because it's like a limited.
They really didn't. From what I saw, there were unofficial groups of people doing exactly that. Just allowing random people to friend them and defriend them.
People have to accept your friend request first, so yeah, you couldn't just do it with any old stranger. Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. Yeah, this campaign lasted 10 days because Facebook really, really didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in total, let me pull the numbers up.
I think it might also be illegal because they're specifically targeting one other business in a way that negatively impacts them. That might actually be illegal.
I think it might be.
I don't remember. Yep. I read something about that as well. I don't know if there ever ended up being a legal aspect to that. Like, as in, like, if someone actually tried to take them to court or was like, hey, we're going to take you to court if you don't stop. But it sounds
illegal. It didn't see anything. Yeah. It did at least go against their privacy policy, which kind of is strange in the context of Facebook, but, you know.
When it goes against Facebook's privacy policy for people to...
Yes.
Okay.
The thing is, Burger King had a web app, website, where you would log in with your Facebook details and delete your friends that way. And when you do that, like, first of all, it's just to confirm that you actually did it. Second, they would use that to send them a message that they have been dropped for a 10th of a Whopper.
Right. Yeah.
And
now
that
you
was
mention
the privacy violation there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Um.
So in total, somewhat over 200,000 Facebook friends were deleted, resulting in like somewhat over 20,000 free Whoppers being, like, Whopper coupons being sent out to people.
I consider this an absolute win.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's my fact.
You couldn't do that these days because people just don't use Facebook anymore. Like, someone's like, oh, I still have a Facebook account lying around, let's just unfriend everyone and get a couple of free Whoppers.
I mean, first of all, it's not really Facebook anymore, it's called Meta.
Well, the
now.
website is still called Facebook. The company is still called Meta.
Okay, never mind then.
I mean, to be fair, it kind of makes sense that the company wouldn't be called Facebook because they also own Instagram and WhatsApp and I think a couple other things.
Yeah.
So they've grown beyond
Oculus.
being just Facebook for a while now, but I'm pretty sure the social media platform is still called Facebook. That's my understanding. Though, never having used Facebook in the first place, I wouldn't necessarily know. My fact of the week is a lot simpler. Sergej, have you heard of numbers before?
Well, I think I did.
Have you heard of prime numbers before?
Yeah, probably. Something rings a bell.
Now, intuitively, how large would you say can gaps between prime numbers become?
I mean, how large?
Yes.
I don't know. Probably stretching towards infinity.
And that is correct. They can get infinitely large. Intuitively, that makes sense, right? But I can prove it to you. So there's actually some proofs also regarding the largest possible gap of like primes between primes of certain size. It's like, if you have primes around 1 million, then blah blah blah. That I don't know the exact details of, but there's a very, very, very basic proof for proving that the gaps do in fact, if you go infinitely long, then they get infinitely large. And it's very simple. Are you familiar with the concept of a factorial?
Yes.
Just for those that don't know, if I say n factorial, I mean, well, n being a natural number, then that means that it's 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 until you reach n. You multiply all of the natural numbers from 2 or from 1, it doesn't really matter, until n together, and then that is a factorial. Now, obviously, the natural numbers go infinitely large, as do primes, and, I mean, if primes didn't become... No, I was going to say if they didn't become infinitely large, then there would by necessity be an infinite gap, but there wouldn't because there would have to be 1 at the end. Anyways, it wouldn't be a gap if it was open-ended. So, to prove that the gaps become infinitely large, you can just say we take a arbitrarily large factorial, and we then say that, okay, so a factorial obviously is not a prime. It literally has tons of factors. That's kind of its thing. Wait, actually, that doesn't even matter as much. Because the factorial plus 1 could be a prime, theoretically. But the factorial plus 2 cannot be a prime.
Yeah.
Because the factorial, by necessity, will be divisible by 2, because 2 is a factor. It's as sort of like the, 1 by 2 by 3. It's always going to be a factor. And then plus 2 is also divisible by 2. If you add them together, divisible by 2. If you add 3 is not a factorial, plus 3 is divisible by itself, so it's not going to be divisible by 3. So on and so forth, up until n. So, in a small example, I can prove that there is a prime gap of at least 5 by saying that 5 factorial plus 2, 5 factorial plus 3, 5 factorial plus 4, 5 factorial plus 5, actually that means gap of 4, not of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. 5. There you go. So, 5 factorial plus 1 could be a prime. I don't know if it is, but it could be. But there's nothing categorically saying it can't be. 5 factorial plus 2 is even. 5 factorial plus 3 is divisible by 3. 5 factorial plus 4 is even, but it's also divisible by 4. If we go with a scheme. 5 factorial plus 5 is going to be divisible by 5. Because, as a matter of fact, 5 factorial plus 5 over 5 is 4 factorial plus 1. Besides the point. So, from 5 factorial, the next possible prime number, well, actually, is 5 factorial plus 7, but it could be 5 factorial plus 6 if it was, actually, it can actually never be, plus an even number, so, obviously, but, so there is at least a gap of 5, but the technical proof just, if I use, like, 6 factorial as an example, then the gap would be at least 5 large, and 6 factorial plus 7 could, once again, be a prime, theoretically, I don't know if it is. And so,
Okay.
if that number, n, the number that I'm using for the factorial, can become arbitrarily large, by which I mean it can approach infinity, then so does the gap, because it's always going to be one smaller than that number n.
Okay.
So,
I guess.
So, if I take any number n...
Yeah, no, that does make sense, yeah, no.
Then any number from n factorial plus 2 through n factorial plus n is by necessity not prime, and thereby, from n factorial plus 2 to n factorial plus n is n minus 1, is at least the smallest gap that has to at least exist, right? So, like, a gap this large does at least exist. And since n can approach infinity, so can the gaps.
That makes a lot of sense. That is an interesting way to approach that. Yep.
Today I learned. Well, actually,
Wouldn't
yesterday
have thought
I learned,
of that.
I was watching an old number file video and they explained it there, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. So yeah, there is proof that prime gaps get infinitely large. I mean, intuitively it makes sense because, like, 2, 3, 5, 7, they're so close together, right? 11 is a little bit further. 13 is pretty close again. It's a twin prime, as a matter of fact. But then, 17, 19, 23. And, you can kind of see if you go further, like, of course, right, the gaps get larger, so you would assume that they approach infinity, but this actually proves it. And it's something that just about anyone can do. Like, even if you don't understand what a factorial is, you could technically still less elegantly come to that conclusion. Yep. Like, you could probably figure this one out in elementary school. Theoretically.
Yeah.
That is my proof, well, not my proof, but that is the proof of why they get infinitely large. And apparently, there's a proof that shows that if you're, like, at a prime x, then was it the largest, there has to be at least a gap somewhere of log x times log x of times log of log x times log of log of log of log of x divided by log of log x, I think was what it was, times some constant c.
Wait, what?
I don't know the math behind that one, okay? But it's a bunch of logs, and they're like, they can prove that, like, if you're like if you're under 1 million, I think you can prove that there is, like, at least some gap below 1 million that is of the size of log of 1 million plus, what was it, times log of, that whole thing. They're just it.
Okay.
I
don't know what this is about.
Way beyond my ability to explain that, but
yeah.
Halftime show.
Moving on.
You know what it is? It's Squirrel. We're doing the daily one again of Thursday. That is well, actually, no, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. Today's Saturday. What?
No, it's Saturday.
I'm so used to it being Thursday. No, it's Saturday, actually. This is today's Squirrel. So, spoilers ahead. This time it actually matters. I think we all know where we're starting.
Yes.
Hey, there's some E's. Also,
interesting.
No use at all.
But eyes.
Eyes! Do we want to figure out a number, the word that has an I in the center?
No, we don't.
Oh, no, we don't. No,
we explicitly don't want to do that.
Right. So there's an I somewhere, but not in the center of the column, and there's none in the row at all. But we can't test for both, so we're going to try to figure out the column, because we at least know there's an I in there. And the I is not going to be in first or third position, so it's going to be here, there, or there.
Yep. Ah. We have like pretty much zero information at this point.
Is that even how you spell that? Whimsy?
I think you forgot an H in there.
Okay. Right, whimsical. Yeah, no, you're right. No, that doesn't work. What do we want to do?
How about windy?
I mean, yeah, check this out. I mostly just wanted to, I always like trying for a Y. I mean, technically we also haven't tried for an O yet, but we can't get all of it. I mean, we might be able to get both, but who cares?
Interesting.
Well.
Okay,
well.
I think we've confirmed the I in the first column.
I mean, there's a very real chance that the I is going to be right there.
I mean, yeah.
And I guess there's going to be one either here or there. Let's also get rid of no N's, no W's.
No N's.
No N's.
That's interesting.
I always find it much more interesting when you have no S's or something.
Oh, we have confirmed the D in the bottom row.
Right, there has
second to last position.
Be a D there, yeah. And let's try for that, I guess.
What? Second to last position. Not the last one.
Wait. Right, wait, what am I saying? There can be one here as well, though, right? Like, not that, wait.
It can be, but it doesn't have to.
What was I thinking? Oh, no, there has to be one. No, I'm right, there has to be one here. Because, there can't be one here, there can't be one here, there can't be one here, or there. No, there doesn't have to be one in this row at all. Right. If there is a D in the row, it has to be at the end, but it doesn't have to be a D at all. Okay, I'm getting back into this.
I'm talking about the row, not the column.
Yeah, the row, the row. It could have a D there, or there, or even there. It doesn't have to, though.
It has to be in the second to last position, though.
Oh, because there can't be one up there, and there can't be one up there, so there has to be one there. Okay. Just say that.
Now we're on the same page.
Okay. And we probably want to have a Y somewhere in here. Maybe, how about the end?
End sounds really good.
Because
considering it also has to be in the column.
Help with both of those clues. And we can once again do something that's D. Like, maybe not windy this time, though, because no W's, no N's. But, Also, not an I there, so we could do something like is that a word?
Oh, sounds like a word.
Like it's chord-like, it's chordy. Let's see, do we have anything that we know that we can't do? We haven't tried R's and C's or O's at all, and we wanted to have a D and a Y there. Do we like it?
Sure.
It's not a word.
It's not a word. Damn.
No. I mean, my first instinct was going wordy, but again, with no W, so... But going something that has an O in there would make sense in as far as I just want to see if we have O's at all. And R's wouldn't be the worst thing to test. Wouldn't be the worst thing to test an R, but we can also test an L. Oh, well, moldy.
Yep. I like that.
Hey, DY, that was correct. No L's in the row, but in the column, no M's at all. That's helpful, I think.
Rolling.
O's, yes, but actually, we know that either the second letter of the row here or there is going to be an O. We just don't know which one, as far as I can tell.
Yep.
But we're probably going to go for the column right now, aren't we? Because the I that we presume to have, although it could technically still be the last letter, couldn't it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
But right, we said because of this one, we wanted to, because of the hint over here, we wanted to have the I here as a test. So do we want to try out something that has...
Oh, you know what? I just figured out the bottom center letter has to be a D too. Because every other space in the center column cannot have a D in it, but the word has to have a D in.
That is a good point. It doesn't immediately help us with what we're looking at, but it is still good to know. So, any ideas of what could be a word that has a second letter I and the second to last letter E? Have we tested T's? Yeah, I know we have not. We haven't tested S's either, right? And we haven't tested...
no, we haven't.
We haven't tested a bunch of my favorite letters.
Let's
like
go
R,
for
T, and S, which are all very common in the English language. How about rights, Sergej? How do you like rights?
Sure. I like that.
Like rituals. Hey, we got some letters. Well, we got the I and the T, but... And we know that R's, T's, and S's exist, but... So, word that starts with T and ends with D and has an I as the second to last letter. Because there has to be an I in the row,
right. Yep.
And there can't be one here
true.
or there or there. Well, there's already T there, so there has to be an I there.
It is true.
I can't immediately come up with a word that would work, though. I mean, I know there exist words that have that format. The first one I can know was timid, but obviously... Oh, no. But obviously that doesn't work because of the extra I. But there is no other... There's no word like tamid, right? There's tamed with an E, but... There's no, like, timid, tamid, tumid, I don't know, no use, anyways. And then, of course, I think torrid is a word, I want to say. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it means, though, and no O's.
But there can't be an O, yeah.
So, terrid, turid, tirid. Wait,
no use on the entire thing.
Oh, yeah, no use on the entire thing. I mean, I'm almost thinking about like the semi-backwards words, like tired, terrid, tiered. That doesn't work either. Most of the words that I'm having with an E and an I in them would have the I a lot earlier. As a matter of fact, I'm just came up with the fact that tiered and tired, I think is... No, wait, tiered has an extra E, doesn't it? Are anagrams of one another, but none of that helps.
Maybe TH something?
Third. Oh no, wait, that's still
Is that a thing?
I was gonna say third, but that doesn't work because that will be IR, not RI. The problem is
a like thoid a thing?
Thoid.
Yeah. No. I don't know that. I know Whaley sounds like a word, but yeah, apparently not.
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? Like, if we have TH, then the next letter almost has to be a vowel, right? Well, the word thrice exists, so R could also work, I guess, but like, not. I mean, thrid is thrid an old school way of saying well, actually, it would be third, right? Like, thrice is 3 times, thrid is third. I don't know. You know what? I'm just gonna try it because it's probably
I guess, yeah.
Anyways, it's a word. It's not the word, but it's a word. So again, do you want to look at what thrid means?
Define thrid. Yep.
Thank you.
Same as a thread.
Oh.
As in continuous line.
Okay, so it's just an old word for... Okay.
Can also mean a third, so...
Hey.
Not entirely off.
I mean, that's probably all like Old English, like it meaning thread is probably from before the spelling was standardized. And it meaning third...
Oh, wait, no. It's, if you take a thread as a verb, that is the simple past version of that.
Oh, apparently. I thrid.
Yep.
I threaded through there, and then it was through. I don't know. I'm not a poet, okay? What is a word that ends in double DY? And doesn't start with a T.
So no H in the entire thing.
What? No, oh no H. Yeah, that's actually...
There's no H in the entire thing.
So okay, what is a word that ends in double DY and does not start with a T? Oh.
Baddie.
Baddie?
Yes.
Oh, is it? Wait. Did we ever exclude the possibility of the first letter? No, we didn't. We did. Okay, cool. I was just for a split second thinking, like, did we ever exclude the possibility of it just being daddy, and we just have a triple D, but no. No triple Ds.
I did exclude that.
So, yeah.
I thought of it, though.
Yeah, but there is a D right there.
Yep.
Huh. Okay.
I'd assume the first letter is a B.
I was thinking that as well. Oh yeah, right, we also have the 2 B's pointing at it. I was actually thinking of it, I was literally just thinking of the column, and I was thinking, well... I guess no, actually I was thinking that the third letter could also be a B, technically, like... IB, something could work, but... Okay. So do we go for row or column? Because we don't really have a lot of additional information for either of them. Okay, we could, if we were really clever, which we have once done before, come up with a word that could possibly solve both, assuming they end in the same letter, but that would then have to neither contain an I nor a T there, despite the fact that each one of them does contain one in the actual solution. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Solve two words by typing in a third word that has some letters in common, but also some that differ. I doubt... I'm not saying we can definitely do that, but who knows? Okay, I mean, can we just assume that this is maybe an O? It doesn't have to be.
I was thinking of it too, but I'm not entirely sure if it is.
Well, I was thinking, right? Vowels are somewhat limited. It could technically still be an A, we didn't exclude that. It could technically still be an E, which we didn't exclude. It just... both happen to already be in the row and column, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be there. Also, so wait, right, so it could also be an A or an E, so it could be something like, let me just delete this.
Can't be an A.
Could be like, baited, is that spelled that way? You know,
it cannot be baited, because no A in either row or column.
Oh, no A at all, right, never mind. So it can't be an A, it can't be an I, at least in the row. Obviously it is an I in the column. So it'd have to be an E or an O, because we have no U's, and Y seems like a stretch. Wait. Why does that sound familiar?
Oh.
The question is just, it can't be bytes. It can't be bytes, so, So, is that a vegetable, or is it that? It's that, isn't it?
I think it's that, yeah.
Okay. So it has to be, the second letter would have to be, presumably, I mean, I'm just gonna say it's probably an E or an O, unless it somehow is a Y. But I can't imagine three vowels that have like a B something T that seems weird.
Yeah.
Bolt. That sounds almost more like, I don't know.
I mean, what words do we have for like B-O-T?
Well, I mean, what is boat? Boat sounds familiar. Not as in like B-O-A-T, but like for... Oh no, I'm thinking of bode.
B-O-D-E.
I was thinking of bode, yeah, like forebode. I mean, I'm generally like, even just TE in general, I'm like, the last letter cannot be an S or an R, which is already very restrictive. And honestly, I would be kind of shocked if it was a Y, because then the word in the column on the right would have to start and end with a Y, which is certainly possible, but it seems like a very interesting option. So in general, like TE, like what comes after that? Like a T? Another T? Boated? Is that a word?
I have no clue.
It's not a word. Honestly, like sometimes when I'm like fairly certain it's not a word, I'm just like, just try it. But oh, I know what the last letter could very likely be. Oh no, never mind. Ah, fuck! I was gonna say N, right? Like a passive form, right? Like of a verb. Could be something tun, right? Like bitten. Obviously, it can't be
Yeah,
bitten
no.
because it would be bitten, but there can't be any ends at all.
Yep.
Oh, also, well, actually, it might have the same root. I was gonna say some adjectives as well. In a more, like, in a more poetic sense, also would end in en sometimes, but that I think comes from the passive. How about double E? Maybe not necessarily Boti, but like, like a receiver of an action, right? Like not like an actor, but an actee, someone who's been acted upon.
Yeah, that sounds alright, I guess. So, do we want to try to fit it in the column as well?
By
Somehow.
replacing the T with another letter.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I can fairly certainly tell you that we're not going to get, if it does end in double E, we're not going to get both anyways. Because I'm assuming that Iari is not a word. So if it does end in an E, the other one probably does not. As a matter of fact, maybe ratty sounds vaguely like a word. No, it can't be an R at all because of the R up top. It can't be daddy either. Fudge. Fiddlesticks, as they say. I kind of just want to know. I think I'm just going to check if Boti is a word. How about that?
Sure.
It is not. I think that helps.
It is not.
A little. Okay, how many E's do we think we can put in a word?
This is harder than usually. A lot of them.
Actually, why am I even having any of the green ones? They pretty self-evident. It is in fact not a word. But he. I mean, it can't be R, can't be T. It can't be S. Oh no, it could be T, but it isn't T because we tried. It can't be R, it can't be S, it can't be D. G?
I don't know about that. How about the possibility that the B is not in the first position?
Okay.
Seems like more and more likely the more we try to fit it in the first position. Like, don't know, man.
I mean, my first mind immediately when I hear this is to just go that, but the thing is, A, there can't be a D there, and B, what I was thinking, of course, is that, right? So. So. It still can't start with an A, that much is certain. Could technically start with an E. But my main concern right now, even if it is a B as a second letter, which is admittedly very possible, what would be the last letter of a word that ends with a TE and then another letter? Right? Because TED and TES seem
that
like the
isn't a D.
Natural one.
Yeah.
So if you can't have D, T is kind of the next best one, generally speaking. But that is still a stretch. And again, double E is technically a possibility, but I mean, if it was a P, I would actually say that opt might still be totally doable because it is something that has been opted for. It seems like a stretch, but like just linguistically, it would make a little bit of sense.
I have no idea what the heck.
L, right? It's the last letter is probably L. Because tell, like an Intel, for example, is totally legit, like tell as an ending, and we actually need an L in that column already.
Yeah.
And then now I'm thinking, this looks both like bottle and like hotel. I wouldn't know what a botel is. I know what a motel is. It kind of feels like a word. Like, just almost. I mean, it's same with beetle, because obviously beetle is a word, but that's spelled differently. As in with 2 E's. I'm kind of attached to the tell idea for sure.
I mean, try it. Okay. We now know where the O is.
So, okay, first, yeah, that, and the other thing is, I would like to know what a botel is, thank you very much.
1 second. Define botel. An obsolete form of bottle. A floating hotel. A boat that acts as a hotel.
Ah. That makes sense, I guess. So, we have kind of 2 options here.
We do.
We can either try to figure out the column, or we can try to figure out the row. Now, for the row, we don't really have a lot of information. For the column, we kind of do.
And do the row by process of elimination, perhaps?
I was thinking that, but there is still a lot of stuff that we don't know, because we don't even have anything directly pointing at it besides the I that is probably, like the I and the D that are probably already taken, this I that's probably already taken, this B that's probably already taken. Like, all of the letters that we do have pointing at it are already kind of accounted for. That's the O, which we know definitively goes there. I honestly think we'd have a better shot almost trying to figure out the first row and then having the first letter that way, but that's, at that point we might as well just go for the rows when they come up. Huh. I once again had a word come into my mind. It just...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it's definitely wrong, actually. Fuck. I was just thinking... So, my first thought was... My mind went triad, and then I was like, wait, no, you're thinking of dryad, right? Which is different. But... Wait, else is IA, not AI. It's not even helpful. And also there's no R's. So, that actually breaks down way more corners than I thought. But... Was there anything saying? There was not, was there? my idea would be basically this. But then I would not know what vowel to put as the second letter of the column to make it work, right? Because aid makes a lot of sense, right? You have, aid, made, laid, raid, right? There's a lot of those. But trade would be the only one that, obviously, the only word I know that is actually called trade would be spelled differently again. But that would be the only one that comes to mind that would linguistically work, like, that would just roll off the tongue, right? Trade. But, like, saying, like, tcade, twade, tiade, tade, tiade, choade. I know it can't be that. Tpaid, sade, sade. No. Fade, tgade, tlaid, like, if there is an A there, which I'm not saying there definitely is, but after, the only consonants that can really come after a T is R, which we've already excluded from this column, H, which we have excluded from the puzzle. I'm thinking
which
of maybe
we've actually tried it in this exact position.
Also can't be there. What? Oh,
which we've also tried in this exact position.
So, TW does work, actually, I just realized, but not in here, right? Like, twain is a word, also name. But, like, TT does not happen.
I'd probably go with the vowel in the second position.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I was just trying to figure out if we could somehow make this work without a vowel in second, because if we can't, then we know that there's a vowel in second. If there's a vowel in second, there's probably not a vowel in third. If there is a vowel in second, also it's not going to be an I, an A, or an O.
Yep.
So it would have to be an E or an A.
No. We excluded A. It has to be an E then.
It has to be,
because no U's either.
It has to be an E or a Y, and it's not going to be a Y. So it would have to be an E, right?
Yep.
So that's actually interesting. I was thinking, the thing is, right, like, the logical thing to put in between there, just making it sound like an English word, not even like necessarily knowing that it is one, because sometimes we just don't, would be an R, or an M, or an N, or an L. Those are, like, the most intuitive ones, and none of those work.
Yep. None of them can go in there.
Tacit. Is tacit a word? Tacit sounds like it could be a word. How are you feeling about that? It feels like I've heard a word.
It doesn't sound like a word to me, but, like, you can try it. It's
acid
like
is a word.
The only thing we have right now.
I'm sure tacit is a word with an A, but I'm not sure about tacit with an E. But that sounds like it could be a word. Like, Sid also has a very common ending, again, acid. Well, so okay, it's not a very common ending, but it's an existent ending. Okay, you said we could try it. I was thinking, depending on how big brain we want to go, we could now try to go for the row with OC, if we can find a word that has OC in it, right? That's what I was thinking we could maybe, if we wanted to be really fancy.
Yeah.
We could also just try out if tacit is even a word. Actually, that would actually not be the worst idea, would it? We don't have that many guesses, but there would be a free guess if it is right. How do we work this? I just had a really nice word for the column that just ever so barely doesn't work. There's also this one, but both of those don't work, so that's annoying.
Yeah.
Is there any other words that start with cock? Like, unironically, right? Like, because you haven't tried C's and K's at all, so it could be right.
Could be.
I just sadly can't come up with anything particularly working. Like, cocky with an I, that's not a word.
How about hockey? But no H or Y in this position.
Yeah. Same problem. Why I couldn't do wait, also it's hockey, it's like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Technically kid could also work, right? But it seems less likely for me to be a kid thing than a Sid thing. I don't know why, but I feel like, right, like if you hear like rancid as a word, right? But I can't come up with a word that ends with kid besides the literal word kid. Both a kid and two kid, but we could try tacit. Just to see if it's right. And then maybe that tells us if the other word has an E in it, for example, as well.
What would be the a likely letter in for the first letter in the row? Considering the column.
Yeah, I know what we're considering. The thing is, obviously, just considering what we have in the column, the intuitive answer would be something like R, L, D, T, M, N, right? Like, but none of those work. So that actually does possibly limit it down a lot, actually. So I said it can't be R. It's not probably not going to be Q. It can't be W. It's not going to be E. It can't be R. It can't be T. It can't be Y. It's not going to be like it can't be U. It can't be I. It can't. It could be O, but that seems like a stretch. Like bio.
It cannot be an O.
Oh, it cannot be an O, actually. Right, yeah. You're right. I overlooked that one. Yeah, there's one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to exclude it anyways, but yeah. P? Pipe? That doesn't sound right. Doesn't necessarily have to mean it's wrong, but A sounds very wrong. It can't be S. It can't be D. F feels wrong. V would be a lot more natural in that situation. But G. Bigger. Bigger is spelled double G, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Also no R.
Oh right, no R in the row. In the column. Because Beige sounds wrong again, right? J feels off. At least for an English word. Could be a foreign origin, like Spanish or French, but still seems unlikely. K would be possible. You know, bike, spiker. I mean, obviously, it's not either of those, but it could be possible.
Z could surprisingly work, potentially.
L doesn't work. Z.
Not too far off.
I'm gonna say it seems unlikely, but it is possible, for sure. I'd probably
more
prefer
than
K.
usual. I'd
Actually,
say.
Technically, X could also be possible, but again, as a starting letter for another word also seems very unlikely. So my preferred ones probably right now are actually C or K. If you think about words that start with cock, then they would probably start with a C, not with a K. But I mean, preferred, but bike. Oh fuck. Technically, it could be just about anything. Depending, because I was just thinking about like single syllable sort of stuff, but like bi is a prefix meaning two. So you could technically make it just about anything. Even ones that wouldn't otherwise make that much sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Because, like, I mean, I can't come up with any words that are like bi and then something relatively short after, but
Was bicep a thing without the S? Making it a 5-letter word instead of a 6th one?
No. Bicep as in the muscle. Right?
Yep.
That is how that's spelled.
Isn't it usually spelled biceps?
Well, because you usually train both at once. Right? Like, you train your biceps.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you do single hand curls, you would technically train one bicep, but like it doesn't come up as much, right? Like, but it's totally worked.
Okay.
I'm just kind of attached to the cock idea, you know? you know, no, like, I mean, they're nice animals.
I noticed.
You know, a rooster. And patty is totally a word, by the way, like a burger patty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm like very attached to the idea that it's bicep. And we know for a fact the O has to go there. I really kind of like the second C, but I don't necessarily know that it's right.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, P. Did we ever eliminate P? Tepid is a word, isn't it?
It is?
It's either a word or a Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure it's a word. In which case, we get something about coping? Maybe? I don't know.
This is tough. The hardest one we've had so far.
I mean, do we just want to try tepid, honestly? Because,
Sure. Let's go for it. Wait,
yeah.
is... Okay.
Tepid's right.
I was about to mention to maybe try Sepid, if that's a thing. To also test a C.
Yeah. I'm relatively attached to the bicep idea, so I'm almost kind of treating it as if it's correct. I know we can't technically do that, but...
Mm-hmm.
So...
I guess we were solving the column, but also filling in the row.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I'm just...
Yeah.
The problem is we couldn't solve the column without... I mean, we couldn't solve the column in the row at once because of the E and O, because we had to get both of them in there.
No, I mean like right now. Patty and...
Oh, yeah,
well, the last row and column. Could probably do that.
I mean, it doesn't really matter necessarily because we're probably going to type bicep anyways. So, unless we want to try... Actually, no, you know what? Fair enough. Let's try...
Just to confirm.
Yeah, let's try something that starts with a P, but also could start with an L, basically. Okay.
feel like it has to start with a vowel.
Wait, so you're saying the second letter has to be a vowel?
I mean, probably can't come up with any sensible combination starting with L and a consonant.
Good point. Okay, so no O's, A's, or U's. So it could be an I, it could be an E.
Mm-hmm.
It could technically be another Y as well. Though, that seems like a stretch. And then... So we pretty much only have negative information, right? We have... Like, the third letter could be an E, but... There's no reason to necessarily assume it will be.
Oh wait, I didn't even notice the E.
Yeah, one of the two last letters of
the new one
of the middle column of the middle row has to be an E.
Yeah, but we know that the top row has to be an E there.
Oh, right. Good point. Whoops, not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Whoops.
I have no idea what that word means.
Well, we can look it up once we get there, or right now.
The beetle, I don't know, is a vine of the family Piperacei, which includes pepper and kava.
Okay. The more you know.
Some plant, I don't know.
It's a plant. Something tells me that this could be a word. But, to leer is a word, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if leery is.
Totally sounds legit.
But it sounds vaguely plausible. Now, the question then is, do we want to try if...
I feel like I've read that a couple of times even. Also sounds like a word, to be honest.
Because this could be our double solve then.
Yeah. Let's go for it. It is.
Well, it was Leary and it was Patty. So...
Back to 4 guesses.
Yeah, do we want to try to go for 5? To beckon? Spell with a K or with a C? I don't know.
Yeah.
Fuck, okay, to beckon is, I think it's spelled with a K then, and a beacon is spelled with EA. So, we can't go for bacon because we need something, it doesn't even need to start with a B though. It just needs to have an EC in there, so, like, recon.
Yep.
That's a twofer. And then it's just... I mean, I didn't even try to get something that like gives us extra hints because there's probably not that much we can do with cop something E.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can
At least we have 5 guesses to solve this.
I mean, yeah, and I can't come up with a word that I know that is true, right? So...
Yeah.
So, it cannot be an O, which is probably not something that I was trying to use. Okay, let's see. Q doesn't make sense, can't be W. Could technically be E. Coupe. Coupe. Wait. Coupe. No, it's probably an OU, isn't it? Coupe, like a car, for example, that is an open top, or...
Yeah. OU.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So E is technically still possible. I'm not going to do that right now. R is impossible. T is impossible. Y is impossible. U is impossible. I is impossible. O is impossible. P... Wait. Okay, so double P and double E we can technically not exclude. Cop. Okay. We cannot technically exclude A, but... I mean, we also technically can exclude Q, but... we have A. We do not have... We could have... I think we could have S, couldn't we? I still wouldn't know what kind of a word it would be, but we could technically have it. No D. Well, F, G, J, and K we obviously haven't tried it also. It's technically impossible to say, but they all seem really odd. Can't have H, which would actually be surprisingly reasonable because PH as a first sound totally exists. So it being like coffee, just spelled all sorts of wrong. Can't be L. I don't like Z and X. Nor do I really like extra C, but or V or B. Can't be N or M. I mean, I just said like double P and double E almost sound like the most reasonable. This is a very small number of letters that it can actually technically be.
Yeah.
Do we just want to go for some of the... let's start with this. A word. Oh no, it has to be O though. Okay, I was just double checking, but so it literally already says C and P, and it has to be O because both things are pointing at it. So it has to be this. It has to end in an E. So I tried the 3 I like best already. I'll do it. So okay, can't be W. We tried E.
T maybe, or it can't be.
It cannot be T.
Oh, it can either. Yeah.
It can't be Y. It can't be U.
Try an F maybe.
It can't be I. It can't be O. I'm literally just double checking the keyboard now. After we tried P, we tried A.
Yeah.
Have we tried S? I don't think so. And that's one. Like I know I would have gotten there, but I just wanted to systematically go through it because otherwise it would have taken me forever. And so yes, of course, looking it up right now.
A thicket of small trees or shrubs. Copies, written COPPISE. CE.
Okay, sure. So this was difficult.
Written completely different.
So the thing is, I don't think I've ever encountered beetle or beetle or whatever it is, or copsy or copes. I do know tepid, but it's not necessarily a word that I use a lot. Bicep is also one of those words that I think is kind of clever to be in there because it's not something you think of, but it is definitely a word you know. Leery, I would not have also not necessarily thought of. So basically, patty and bicep are like the easiest words in here, which is saying a lot about how hard this was.
Yep. This was by far the hardest one so far. Oh, God.
Which is why we're going to go very quickly about our second topic, because Jesus Christ, we're already going for way longer than I wanted to, because I also have to get this out today. So, if this is late, you know why. But,
yeah.
Blame Furry Fubar. So,
Yep, exactly.
what combination of flavors do you like, and why does it taste so good?
I
really thought you were going to say, crackers and muscle
sweet
fluff
goes
or
with pretty much everything. See, sweet goes with pretty much everything. You can combine with all you like. Pretty much always fits.
I don't really like combining sweet with a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of people like the salty and sweet stuff, like salted caramel, or, as I said, crackers and marshmallow fluff. That's a bit more niche, but...
Okay,
But I personally don't like either of those combinations that much. I mean, the crackers are fine because they're relatively neutral, despite the fact that they are a little bit salted. I don't like salted caramel at all. And honestly, I'm not the right person to ask this question, because I would probably just give a bunch of stuff that people like that I don't. And it's not even that I'm that picky, but I feel like a lot of combinations just... I'm not very adventurous when it comes to combinations. Like, I don't know, salty and spicy? But they very naturally go together, I feel like, right? Like, you just... Like, if you have a sauce, it'll very it'll likely have some amount of spicy and salty in it anyways. Like, I can't give anything beyond that.
I'm also really bad at breaking down flavors.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have anything immediately come to mind for sure. So, why do people laugh?
I know beats me.
Well, I mean, there's a social component there for sure. In different situations as well. Sometimes it's a coping thing as well, because I think it releases some positive stuff in your brain.
Yeah, but why?
Because something is funny or it's not. I don't know. It's a social thing. It's good for your brain. Well, that's a way oversimplification. How have standards of beauty changed in your lifetime?
I
don't know if beauty standards at large have changed all that much. I know that fashion trends have certainly changed a lot, but that's a lot of very simple stuff like clothing or haircuts. But I don't know about... I feel like if you say beauty standards, we're talking more innate traits oftentimes, right? Well, not necessarily innate, but less easily changeable, right? You can get a new haircut very easily, but stuff like different weight things or hair colors, something like that. Well, I mean, I guess you can change, but I haven't seen that much change, I think. I mean, to be fair, it says in my lifetime, and I'm only 23, so I think we're the wrong people to ask, because men generally are probably not the best to ask in most cases. Women are usually more in on trends. That's a generalization, I know.
Yeah.
It certainly helps to have a woman, maybe. And then also, we're both in our early 20s. I haven't paid any sort of attention for beauty standards for at least the first 15 or so years of my life. Right? And even then, afterwards, it's still a very superficial thing. So, we're talking about what has changed in the last maybe 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, probably nothing, right? It's I think people at large have become a little bit more accepting about in terms of diversity of body shapes and stuff, but I don't think that's that drastic.
Yeah.
And let's finish it on, what is your best work or school story?
Actually don't know.
It's hard to say, because feel like I've had some school stories that I've told on here before, but the problem is a lot of those are just interesting because like you would have had to have been there, right? Sort of thing. I mean, we've had some fun stuff that we've done in school for sure, but like a really coherent story. I mean, I've told some from my class trips that were probably like some of the more interesting stories.
And class trips in general are kind of generally more funny.
But even those, I find like the one about the one guy thinking he saw the moon when it was just a streetlight is kind of vaguely funny, but I feel like it's mostly funny if you know the people involved.
I think it's funnier if you don't know the people involved.
I think it wasn't even a streetlight. No, it was a light in a room. It was like a ceiling light or something in like a hotel room. Anyways,
okay, how drunk was he?
Not at all. See, the thing is, he wasn't drunk. He was just stupid. We were sitting outside. We're playing poker, and I was just making a point about like how the sky was like very consistently cloudy, right? Like it was already at night, so it was dark, but you could tell that the sky was like not really blue. I mean, it would have been black anyways, but like it was a bit grayish, where it's like consistent, like the very thin, consistent cloud cover, right? Where like the entire sky looks like a slightly different color, but it doesn't really look like cloudy that much. I was like, oh, like sky's pretty like, cloudy-ish. And the guy's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. He's like, why can't I see the moon? And I'm like, huh? Because obviously, like, it's slightly cloud covered, so you wouldn't be able to see the moon. Like, I look up and I don't see anything, and I think Alex looks up and he's like, dude, that's just a room light. Like, because we were like sitting in like the courtyard-ish area, like we're sitting in front of or next to like a building, and so like he just saw like one of the lights in the building and thought it was the moon. I don't find it that entertaining of a story in its own right. It was very funny in the moment, and I feel like if you either have been there or at least know the people involved, then it's probably a bit funnier. But
yeah.
And there was one time when also on the same class trip, when the waiter came to our table and like three of us had ordered tiramisu, and I think Joe ordered something different. And then the waiter gives Joe his dessert, and then he looks around. He's like, tiramisu? Like, because, I guess he was trying to be funny, and it was. Like, because we all ordered the same thing, and he's like, looks at all of us and goes, which of you ordered the tiramisu, basically? And it's like, well, yes. I don't know. Like, it's not even that funny, and like, that's probably some of the highlights.
I mean, the first story was definitely funny. The best I can do is how my class or people in my class managed to break a school table in half, like just cleanly.
Explain.
So in our German class, the teacher went out for like a minute or two. I think it was a class like right after we've got our tests back or exams, and we're discussing grades for the whole year, right? Because it was like the last one. And to do that privately, the teacher goes out of the room periodically with a student to discuss the grades.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the concept.
So just explaining if it's different in other parts of the world. I don't know. Probably is.
In our school, it was different from teacher to teacher.
Takes yeah. So at most, it takes like a minute, maybe 1.5.
Yeah.
And then teacher goes back into the room. So it's not like you're unsupervised constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So, couple of guys decided to just lay on top of a table, and on top of each other. So having quite a bit of mass on the table. It just happened to be more than the wood could handle and just broke in half. Really, really clean though. They're lucky that there was a metal bar right below.
Oh, so it didn't fully collapse.
Didn't completely, fully collapse, because that would have probably ended really bad for all of them.
Yeah.
especially the guy on the bottom. But yeah,
I mean, we've done things.
it was pretty loud. They got up pretty quickly and like away from the table.
Yeah.
Right as the teacher got in, and like basically didn't know what happened or who it was. So yeah, that was fun dealing with the following week.
Yeah. Like again, like I feel like that this sort of started a lot funner if you were there.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
So like I mean we've done stuff like that before, like not exactly breaking the table, but there's been plenty of like shenanigans that we've done in our classes over the years, but I feel like none of them are like really story worthy either. Which brings us to the song of the week.
Yeah.
Sergej, what is your song of the week?
All right. My song of the week is Hanabira by Karasu.
Yeah.
I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm honestly relatively neutral to it. My song of the week is Over My Shoulder by Mike and the Mechanics. Looking back, over my shoulder, I can see that look in your eye, turning my heart over and over. I never wanted to say goodbye.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yep.
Quite a good old song.
Yep. That's the idea. Yeah. How am I gonna say yeah? If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. So, okay.
That's it.
That's it.